Hello, beautiful people. I'm gonna make the assumption here that if you have clicked on this video, there's a good chance that you yourself have undergone some sort of psychic impression, maybe even doubting what you have experienced. And yeah, it's leaving you feeling a little bit unsure of yourself. Maybe you're questioning your sanity. Maybe you've had a few of these experiences throughout your life that you really haven't been that open to, and now are feeling the gentle pull to try to explore that further, deeper. Well, I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. I'm not someone who has identified as psychic for decades. I have newly awakened to my gifts and spent the last 3 years really undergoing many things to help me see the clarity in what I was experiencing and start living a life with those gifts integrated in a positive manner, rather than something like I felt that I was crazy, I felt that I was different, I was trying to push them away. It was something that I was scared to talk about because I thought that was going to make me weird. Look, like, I'm just saying it from someone who has been in this experience. You're not weird. Yeah, you are different. We're all different as humans here in Earth. That's the beauty of being human, right? But we have all grown up in systems that invalidate this stream of knowledge. And because we haven't had the access to systems, to teachers that help us nourish these gifts, it's super common that we just completely shut them down and we think of them as something scary, as something unknown, because we just aren't in positions where we get the support needed to really harness those things that we are undergoing. In this video, we're going to be talking about the 4 main clairsenses. We're going to be talking about what a clairsense is, what a psychic ability is, and then the 4 clairsenses, which are clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognience. Now, there are more clairsenses that go beyond that spectrum, but for the sake of the timing of this video, we're going to keep it down to those 4 clairsenses. And within that, I'm going to talk about some of the impressions that you may have found under those clairsenses to hopefully provide a little bit more of a framework for you to put your experience in. Now, if I talk about stuff and there is something here that you ever have a question about, that you're ever unsure about your own experience, please always feel free to leave me a comment, to send me an email, a message on social media. It's really my intention here to provide some sort of support that I have been given in my journey, basically, because I know that this can be confusing. I know that this can be challenging to move into a place of trust and a place of validating your own experience after maybe living your whole life and denying it, But really, we are in such a tumultuous time in humanity, and now more than ever, it is needed for more of us to acknowledge what these streams of knowledge are giving us. That is my wholehearted belief, that this is something that we all, will ultimately benefit from if we accept our experience. And you don't need to be someone that wants to make this into a business. You don't need to be someone that wants to be a tarot reader. I'm a tarot reader, but it doesn't need to be something that you want to have as your vocation, for example. But just my experience on the level of integrating and accepting these gifts have really changed my whole way of being, the way that I live my life. Let's get into what psychic abilities and what clairsenses are. So to have a psychic ability is to receive information that goes beyond our 5 known senses. Now, our 5 known senses receives information through quite physical and tangible matter, things that you can touch, things that you can smell, things that you can see, things that you can hold, right? And clairsenses move beyond, like an extension of those five senses, and receive information through more nuanced and subtle energies, as things that we can't necessarily see with our naked eye or hear with our naked ear, for example. So when it comes to are you psychic, I want you to think about this. This is how I explain everyone being psychic, because we all have the capacity to be psychic. Now, it's in the same way that we all have the capacity to know how to sing, to be great singers. Does that mean that we're all gonna be great singers in this lifetime? No, and that's totally okay. But in the same way, psychic abilities work like a radio. Some of us are born with that radio hitched right up. We have unteachable gifts from the get-go that are undeniable, and we just fall into it. Others of us have this radio turned on slightly, so we have experiences that we're not fully sure of, and we kind of move into and grow with time as we awaken to them. Others of us have this radio completely switched off. It does not mean that we cannot switch it on, because we may go through a experience in our life that sporadically switches that radio on, or we may go through life never knowing that the radio is even there in the first place. So if you are here watching this video and doubting, am I psychic? The truth is, we are all psychic. So yes, you are. So let's just get out of the way of validating that prospect. You are psychic, okay? That being said, just like any other skill set, psychic abilities and our clairsenses are something that we can grow, that we can train, that can take a whole new life of its own. But the first step here is acknowledging that we are experiencing something that can be grown, that can be nourished here. So let's get into the 4 clairsenses that we are going to talk about today. So first we have claircognience, and claircognience translates to clear seeing. So that means information that is received through subtle and nuanced energies via visual means. So that could mean mental movies, that could also mean things that we see externally, or things that show up in a dream state. Both conscious and semi-conscious states, we can receive visual impression. Visual impressions that clairvoyants get will give a bigger scope of information on situations, on people, on past and the present. This is where they receive information that really gets them to see the bigger picture. And there are many different ways in which a person can be clairvoyant. And some of the common impressions that we associate with clairvoyance are, for example, someone's being able to see and connect with spirits. And again, this can show up in the form of mental movies, or in the form of seeing things on an external level, right? This could also show up as if you are someone who is able to see colours and to be able to auric read a person, receive images and information about a person's emotional state, about a person's well-being, about a person's personality through the aura that they give off. The way that we can be clairvoyant is when we can be triggered emotionally by something, and this can be something within another person. This doesn't necessarily have to mean something that is personally triggering for you. But that trigger point will then go on to show us visions that will give us more information about a topic, about a person, about a situation. Many different ways in which you can be clairvoyant, for example, and I'm definitely not getting into all of them right now. Important thing to take away from what it means to be clairvoyant is the way in which we're receiving information, and that is through a visual means. So anything that is visually coming to you that goes beyond your 5 senses is considered as clairvoyant. Move on to clairaudience, and clairaudience translates to clear hearing. So that means things that we pick up on a subtle energy through auditory means. In the form of hearing messages, this can come up hearing noises, and again, this can happen to us both when we're conscious, when we're in a dream state, when we're semi-conscious. This all is considered as clairaudient, no matter where and when it's happening to you. Now, one of the most common things that are associated with clairaudience is the ability to channel messages. So you may have had an experience where you have heard a loved one in your presence give you a message that you have been able to hear clearly, been able to vocalize clearly. It's clairaudience. In the same way, it's not just picking up messages from loved ones. You may have had communication with what we call spirit guides, spirits that are supporting you here on your journey in Earth. And you may have received messages of affirmation, messages of warning, messages of being told off. I mean, I would love to say that like my spirit guides are always very polite to me, but sometimes that's not the case. And you also are clairaudient, and this is particularly a strong point for me if you're able to pick up and channel messages from things like elemental spirits. A big thing for me is that I can communicate with trees and pick up on what trees are saying. So if you've had an experience in nature where you've been able to pick up a message from any of the spirits that are around in nature, clairaudience. The sign of clairaudience is also if you experience ringing of the ears quite persistently. This is a sign of instant downloads. This is a sign of being able to communicate quite easily with the spirit realm. This is a sign of being able to connect with higher dimensions. So if you have experiences of having your ears ringing constantly, it's a sign of clairaudience. You're clairaudient if you're able to go to situations and instead of receiving images through visual means, you're receiving images through audio means about certain situations. If you've gone to a place that holds a lot of history and you're able to pick up that history without any information presented in front of you, just through what is being vocalized to you through an audio means. Side note as well with clairaudience, one big sign of being clairaudience is if you're someone that talks a lot to themselves, talks a lot to process anything and everything. If you're having full-blown conversations with yourself, it's also a sign of being able to connect with your higher self to process through those means. I did this for so long. This was one of the things that I had no idea that meant anything, having these full-blown conversations to yourself. So yeah, if that's something that you do, you're not alone. And yeah, it's a sign of being clairaudient. So let's get on to clairsentience. I really hope that this is not too repetitive. Now when I'm recording this video, actually, and I'm just going to leave this in here, it feels quite repetitive, but I'm just going to get through it, and you let me know if you found this helpful, if what more you could have found in this video. Clairsentience is translates to clear feeling, and this is when we receive information through a feeling. So this can happen on an emotional level, or this can happen on a physical level. We could feel different temperatures where we get our information, and we can feel and receive knowing through pain and pleasure. So the biggest impression, or a very common impression when it comes to clairsentience, is the ability to feel other people's emotions without them saying anything. This could be someone that is sitting right in front of you, or could be someone that is in a different location somewhere else, that you're able to pick up and feel that person's emotions as if they were your own. Unexplainably, they don't need to say anything. You can just pick it up instantly. Clairsentience with the ability, just like the other clairsenses, of going into a place and being able to pick up through feeling what that place has represented, things that that place has gone through physical pain sometimes. You know, if you're walking into a situation where something particularly traumatic has happened, perhaps you're able to pick up on the emotions and the feelings of those that lived there before can feel. Another way in which you can be clairsentient, of maybe you've experienced it, is if you have a ability to be able to locate pain in someone's body, to be able to locate blocked emotions in someone's body. If you've had that experience where you cannot explain how, but you can feel it through your own body, number one, get yourself into energetic healing, because you are already gifted for that field. But number two, that is clairsentience. And finally, we go back to mediumship, and in the ways that we have picked up through visual means, through audio means, if you are also experiencing connecting with spirits, but through a physical means, meaning that you can feel tingles, meaning that you can feel touches, that you can feel emotions of spirits, this is all underneath clairsentience. And now finally, we get to probably the most difficult out of the four clairsenses to discern, which is claircognience. And the reason that it's more difficult than the others is because it's directly linked to a means of receiving. With clairvoyance, it's visual; with clairaudience, it's auditory; with clairsentience, it's feeling. But with claircognience, it is translating to a clear knowing, and it's just depicting that undeniable knowing without any logical information, without anything, that you know that something is about to happen, that something is the truth of the situation, that you know things about a person. This undeniable gut feeling is what we call claircognience. Cognience is one of those ones that are so nuanced that a lot of people don't even realize what they are experience is considered as claircognience. So it could be if you are a creative person, if you're a problem solver, you know, being able to get that instant download, that instant solution without any other information, how to help you move forward. If you are someone that has that ability, that constantly comes up with new ideas that come out of where it comes from, you know, the mystery of that sporadic explosion of information is claircognience. If you are someone that meeting someone, you can instantly say what they like, if siblings they have, for what they ate for dinner yesterday, I mean, whatever, you know, certain information that there is no logical way that you would be able to get aside from this instant knowing of information. If you are someone that has premonitions, but premonitions through feeling, if you hear about a situation and you already know its outcome with no way to explain that, if that has happened to you, that is claircognience. So I definitely have not said everything about clairsenses, not every way that you can be psychic. I hope that this just gives a basic overview of the four clairsenses and some of the ways in which you can be psychic underneath those four different umbrellas. But what I want you to take away from this, if anything, is knowing that this is a full spectrum, and there are so many different and nuanced ways in which you can be psychic. But the one thing that if you're starting this journey that I would love to relay is just to acknowledge and validate your own experience, because that one step in starting to trust in what you are experiencing doesn't mean that you're crazy. It doesn't mean that, you know, you are just living in an unrealistic world. It means that you have gifts and you have insight that if you nurture, if you develop, be the key of providing the medicine that you are here to provide in your journey as a human. So if you like this video, please let me know. If you have any questions about any of these clairsenses, if you have any questions about your own individual experiences, please let me know in the comments. And yeah, I will see you next time. So lovely to meet you, and thank you so much for giving me some of your time. Have a lovely day. Peace.